Hello and welcome to Creatively Free. I'm your host, Ariel Grace. Today we are going to talk about power, reclaiming your power, and how the kind of power that I'm talking about is different than many people interpret that word. What types of power are there in the world? Lots of kinds, right? A lot of times people think of power as something that is taken, manipulated, pushed, shoved, shifted, and think of powerful people as commanding attention or getting what they need by force. So if you think of physics too, a lot of times power is seen as weighted heaviness, moving, and having a force-driven approach. And then there's other kinds of power. We think of more in the softened spiritual realms, the idea by Lao Tzu around water breaking even the most, rough and hard to manipulate or change stone over time. There's a type of power that lives in what some might call the divine feminine, or in a space that's not force-driven. And if you think about that, it's interesting because, for example, like in Star Wars, how they talk about the Force, may the Force be with you. They go into a zone, and in that movie, it can be used like in some martial arts to be one with what's happening and more in a self-defense way against violence. So oftentimes we use these concepts of the force or oneness around power to be oriented around self-defense, around shielding from manipulative or controlling forces in the world. And I think that it's time to allow for other formats of power, to acknowledge other formats of power, and to encourage and support others in those formats. I admire people like Brené Brown, who has brought the power of vulnerability, which is a softened heart way, and a way of showing that you don't always know everything, to be viewed by many as actually really more of an enlightened and powerful way of being in a complex, always changing, wild world. So the old way of, pretending or putting on a facade of what may have been viewed as a controlling way of force and power in the past is shifting in many communities and many ways, but it still ever presently exists as a residual energy. And so when I talk about spiritual power, reclaiming your spiritual power, I'm talking about your soul, about returning your energy to yourself. So I find that oftentimes at the soul level, we fragment. And what that means is we have experiences that we don't feel like we've honored our truth in that experience. And instead of blaming or putting any judgment around that, I'm not intending to put anything around that experience of why that happens, but it does happen. And what can happen at the soul level when that happens is a piece of our identity or our self-referential experience of what we feel as whole and heart-centered shifts, feels like it leaves. So we can have this through trauma, through heartbreak, through self-abandonment, all sorts of ways that this can show up. And it can show up in the most subtle interactions in life that add up over time to formed habits. where we're giving our power away. And so the invitation here is, one, to start recognizing places in your life where you maybe experience somewhat what I'm talking about. Go back to, if it's not overly traumatic and you don't, and you feel safe to do so, go back to some of those and reflect on if there's any trends in how you give your power away or abandon yourself. And, open to the commitment of learning new ways to take care of and nurture your sovereignty and your power. Because everyone is equally powerful. And as an empath myself, it's taken me many years to realize that I had a tendency, because I would feel other people's energies, to not understand in my conscious mind what energy was mine or other people's, and to misinterpret energetics that I might be feeling from other people as mine. So lots of confusion would come in terms of my thoughts and actions based on energy and my being, until I advanced my learnings and discernment. And I developed new practices, simple meditations, and I'll give you an example that you can do as a starting point. 2 examples. One is like energy healing 101 is to remember that you have an energy field around you. You have a bubble, an aura, and you can extend and actually develop a sense of boundary with that. And so making a practice of that, people use eggs, light, all sorts of visualizations to imagine your energy and work with your energy. But doing that as a practice starts to allow you to decipher and create boundaries between yourself and other people's energy. And over time allows you to, that will translate into what you say yes and no to, who you interact with, how you respond as energy shifts in your being. Another thing you can do, if you feel like you were feeling great one day, here's a tall tale sign of energy coming into your space that's not yours. Feeling great, la 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 la, and then all of a sudden, toxic feelings, heaviness, weight, energy, things like that. And it could be because of a person or something you encounter. It could be lots of reasons why. But that is a sign that you have let something into your energy and are giving your energy away to that. So you can practice clearing that out through meditation and clearing practices. And you can also practice calling your own natural energy back. So what I mean by that is actually just picture anything that isn't yours leaving you and anything that is returning to you. And when you do clearing or any kind of releasing, breath work, meditation, go on a walk, whatever it is, I suggest asking in your brain and your being to release anything that is unhealthy or toxic and have it be transmuted into love as it returns back into the world. We are extremely powerful creational beings. Our thoughts create our reality. Our thoughts create other realities. And the more you practice working with your brain, with your thoughts, with intentions, with visualizations and meditations and clearing, the more you realize just how responsive everything is to you, to what you choose to show up as. So I encourage you to commit to reclaiming your power, to standing in your truth. And if we're reprogramming around old ways, people pleaser ways of, giving in to other people's beliefs and energies, this sort of thing, we may find that it can feel really uncomfortable in your body. Your body will feel like you are doing something wrong when you introduce a new pattern that hasn't been comfortable before in the past, and it shoots off nervousness and energy. And so don't misinterpret that discomfort as meaning that you shouldn't pursue doing the work and shifting your way. In fact, it's an indicator to take care of yourself, nurture yourself, and can commit to that reclaiming your power path. Have a beautiful day, and thanks for tuning in.